Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be doing another Friday the 13th movie review and we are up to part 5, A New Beginning, and this is directed by Danny Steinman and stars John Shepherd. Tommy Jarvis, now suffering from trauma when Jason attacked his family as a kid, has now been moved to a halfway house for troubled teens. However, Jason seems to be back on the scene and the kills mount up once again. Well, this movie, like the others before it, doesn't have a recap at the start, which for me is a bonus. And by the way, guys, I just want to say there are going to be spoilers ahead in this video. Now, this movie, to me, seems like it gets a little bit of a bad rep. Friday the 13th fans usually have it quite low on their ranking, it seems. And when you go on something like Letterboxd or IMDb, it seems to be lower rated than a lot of the other movies in the franchise, especially the ones that came before it and Part 6. But on this rewatch, let's see what I thought. Now, we follow Tommy Jarvis in this, who's the main protagonist, following on his trauma from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And he is a very shy individual. He doesn't really speak too much, but you can see he is just plagued by the events that have came before what is happening right now. And I like it when movies try to do something with their characters, especially this franchise where sometimes even the main protagonists are just there. I don't think Alice or Ginny were even that great of final girls, whatever you may think as a Friday the 13th fan. But here, at least they're attempting something. They're trying to get a little bit of story going, and it already has backstory included from the movie before. So we already kind of know this character anyway. Also, very early on, this movie really does throw you off if you're watching it for the first time, because there's quite a horrific kill in here, but it's not actually committed by Jason. It's more committed by Vic, who is part of this house where these teens are staying. He just absolutely loses his mind with this kid, Joey. And the aftermath, where we see the dismembered body parts of Joey, I mean, it does feel like Jason could have done something like this. But of course, this movie tries to move away from Jason Voorhees as the killer, because it's not actually Jason throughout the entire movie, but more on that in a bit. I mean, again, trying something a little bit different there, which I welcome in horror franchises when they're on like the 5th or 6th movie. But I gotta say, this film just has so much random stuff going for it constantly. I mean, characters are introduced like a third, 2/3 into the movie, only to be killed off in that very scene. And there's kind of like no point to them. There's some very strange dialogue going on here. But I gotta say, this is all part of the movie's charm. I mean, there are literally 2 big scenes in this movie that I can think of where random characters are introduced and killed off in that very scene. They're written in for no reason at all, really. I mean, the 2 scenes I'm referring to are the 2 guys in the car, and obviously that guy who is sniffing coke, picking up his girlfriend from the diner. I mean, there's no real point to these characters whatsoever, other than to have some carnage in there and raise the body count. And that's what I like about Friday the 13th, Part 5. It knows exactly what it is. It knows what the fans want, and it goes for it. There are a lot of kills in this movie. My God, man, one moment in this movie that made me laugh my friggin' ass off is when this practical Joker guy, and he goes up to Tommy to try and scare him with a mask on and stuff, and he goes, "What's the man, can't you take a joke?" And Tommy just picks him up and suplexes him through a table. It's just so strange and so random, but and I just absolutely love this scene. There's just so many moments like this that just make you sit back and go, what the fuck is going on here?
Relax, Chief. What's wrong? No sense of humor? Can't you take a joke?
But it just fits this movie's tone for some reason. I mean, this definitely feels like a lower production value than parts 1 to 4. And I haven't reviewed part 6 yet, but I have seen the movie, obviously. And that movie sort of comes away from that. So it's weird to see part 5 just sandwiched right in the middle of these 2 films. But yeah, it's just full of wacky, crazy characters as well. I mean, I gotta talk about Ethel and her man-son baby here. Probably the most bizarre characters in the entire film. I mean, this woman is absolutely insane. She hates these kids who are in this troubled home, you know, who are all trying to get better and stuff. And they're always going on her lawn, and she walks right up to a police officer and says, if any of them kids come near my house, I'm going to shoot them, and I'm going to shoot them dead. She's basically admitting to a police officer that she's just going to kill these people if they come near her house again. Then she starts barking orders at the police officer and stuff, and I was like, who does this woman actually think she is? But the fact that she's got this man-baby son who is bullied by her and she's always shouting at him and stuff, I mean, he is the most troubled individual in this entire movie. I think that he belongs in this home amongst more of the other characters, to be honest. Ethel can't quite see that. But he's just always riding around on his bike and stuff, screaming like a big baby. It's so strange. And Ethel is always telling him to eat his slop and calling him a big dildo. Just, man, just absolute crazy characters, but they're so fun to watch.
You big dildo, eat your fucking slop.
I really love when this random guy, another random character in this movie as well, is just walking through the woods, and he comes upon Ethel's house and says, hey ma'am, you haven't got any food for me, have you? I haven't eaten in days and I'll do any job for any food. And she goes, okay. Go and clean up all the chicken shit in the back of the coop and you can have a free meal on me. And it's like, man, you couldn't have given him the worst possible job in the world, but it's like she's enjoying giving him this horrible job. You can see it in her face. And I'm just like, man, what a horrible, evil woman.
Clean all the shit out of the chicken coop and dump it behind the shed. You come back here when you got all the shit out and then I'll fill your stomach.
I mean, who the fuck is that guy anyway? Another random character who just pops into the movie and in the next scene he's killed off. He's such a weirdo as well. But back to Ethel's son just really quickly. I mean, he might just be the strangest character in the entire franchise so far, alongside Crispin Glover's character in Part 4. I've said a lot about that character in my review if you want to go and check that out. But he's riding around on his motorcycle screaming and stuff because Tommy Jarvis beat the shit out of him. And it's just so weird to watch. It does feel very B-movie character-like. But also, this comes onto my point that Tommy Jarvis in this movie is, you know, someone to be reckoned with. And it feels like they are building his character up a little bit early on in this movie to say that Jason might actually have his work cut out against this guy because, man, he can handle himself. Now, there's a young kid called Reggie in this movie who is one of the best characters, if not the best character in this film. And I really like the way he takes it to a bulldozer to Jason towards the end of the movie. But again, this just brings me to another random scene where we go and visit his brother who's sort of in a camper van in the outback. And he's eating some enchiladas and he goes, oh, damn, I gotta run the toilet. It's them damn enchiladas. And he's on the toilet with a bad stomach. His girlfriend comes up and starts singing to him in the outside toilet while he's having a shit. And it's like, what the hell is going on here? Who made these decisions? But again, I just have so much fun with all that. And it just, all these random moments, like I said, are at the heart of this film.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Also, Violet's dance there. Is that a little nod to trying to better Crispin Glover's in Part 4? I mean, this robot dance is one for the ages, isn't it? Look, I can talk about this random shit all day, but you know, I could be here for hours. But I'm just going to say, once again, it gives the movie so much rewatchability and adds so much fun factor. Also, guys, just a quick one. If you love tits, you're going to get a lot here. I mean, even Pam, the final girl, has a wet top on towards the end. And yeah, you don't really usually see the final girl reveal too much. But yeah, it's all in here. However, guys, I do have quite a few gripes with this movie that bring it down and probably stop it from being one of the more epic Friday the 13th films. In particular, the kill scenes. Now, I did say there was a lot of kills in this movie, but the problem is a lot of them are just cutaway kills, or you'll see a knife come through something and blood is sprayed on the screen, and you don't really see the creativity and the practical effects too often here. Now, I know this franchise was hampered by the MPAA, and I think they got involved for Friday the 13th Part 5 quite a bit, but it just brings the movie down a lot. It's fun to watch, and then it's taken away from you in a second, you know, all the build-up and everything, which is a real shame, because I think this could have elevated this movie so much more if we had all these kills showing much more practical effects. And It's probably not the movie's fault, but this is the final cut that we see here, unfortunately. Also, the reveal at the end of this film to who the killer is really dumb, I feel. So if you don't know, Jason is not the killer in this movie. I don't even think he's in the film apart from the opening scene. It is, in fact, Roy, the ambulance driver. Yes. Who's in the scene in the movie for like 2 scenes for like 10 seconds each. And I can only imagine at the end of the film that people were going, who the fuck is that guy? He becomes this killer to get revenge on his son Joey's death. Yes, Vic, who kills Joey at the start of the movie, what I was talking about at the start of the review, that was his son. But it's just not executed very well. Look, like I said, I enjoy new takes on the franchise when they try and do something different, but they just didn't land it here. And when you look back on the movie and rewatch it, it's quite obvious that what they're trying to do, because in these scenes, the camera just seems to linger on Roy's face unnecessarily. But it is only necessary when you see the end of the film. So, yeah, they were trying to do a big twist and stuff, but it just does not land at all. It sucks. Also, Jason doesn't really look great here. I think Tom Morgan, who plays Jason, is just a little bit too small, to be honest, to play the character. Plus, the mask looked really wide on his kind of smallish head. And yeah, it doesn't really give off Jason vibes. I know it's not Jason, but it's my least favourite portrayal, if you can call it that, of the character so far, I think, alongside part 2. I mean, I don't even think Jason or Roy even shows up fully until the last 20 minutes. I think it's mostly done from points of view and stuff like that. But also Tommy Jarvis as our main protagonist here just doesn't do it for me whatsoever. He's a real moody fuck in this movie. He's just unlikable to be around. Now, I get he's suffering from the trauma and stuff, but I mean, you got to give me something as your main protagonist, the one you follow around. And I just didn't really like the guy, apart from really when he suplexed that motherfucker through the table. And what's going on with the ending of this movie? Are they implying that Tommy is the new Jason now? I'm not sure that really works, but I get what they were doing at the time. They probably thought Jason is dead and we're going in a totally new direction. We need a new Jason. But part 6 sort of rubs that out now, doesn't it? But also a lot of the characters in this movie are kind of just there to be there. That is the case with a lot of 80s and any slashers, really. But I think the acting in this movie compared to the first 4 is on a lower level. Like I said, the movie does feel a bit more lower in production value anyway. But some people's performances here were just really off and made it feel like such a much lower budget movie. Kind of like the B movies where you go into and see these performances and expect them. Like that kid Joey with the chocolate around his mouth, or the giant man baby I was talking about before. They're just really forced and over the top performances, and the dialogue just doesn't come off very well at all. The line delivery and everything, it's all just poor. I mean, I feel like there was a little bit of an opportunity here to maybe explore these characters, why they're in this kind of home for troubled teens, and, you know, maybe like Elm Street 3 did a little bit. I know they don't all have the whole same thing in common with Jason, but there could have been something there written in. However, I know these movies were just coming out every year back in the 80s. They just wanted to rush them out. I get it. But, yeah, I just couldn't get invested in anyone. I mean, it feels like they've just gone, we'll base it in a troubled home for teens, just to have a different location. And that's the only reason it takes place there. Also, it does play on Tommy's trauma a little bit, so they need somewhere for him to go. But that's all they do with it. Speaking of locations, guys, I find it very strange that Camp Crystal Lake is not the central location for this movie, and it hasn't been since the first film. I mean, I know we see it in the second film a little bit, but it's barely even mentioned throughout the franchise so far. Yeah, a very popular horror location, but only one of these movies so far takes place in it. However, guys, this is a really fun time despite these problems. I have a lot of fun with this movie. I can see it being a little bit higher on my Friday the 13th ranking when I get there compared to some other people's rankings. So, yeah, it's a highly rewatchable film, and I would have no trouble going into it now, knowing I'm going to have fun with it. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give Friday the 13th Part 5 A New Beginning a 6.5 out of 10. Man, this has got to be the easiest horror franchise to watch. It's just so much fun to go through these movies. Okay guys, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for A New Beginning is that this is the first movie where Jason is actually referred to his real name, or full name, should I say, Jason Voorhees. He's only ever referred to as Jason before this in Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, and Friday the 13th Part 4. But in Friday the 13th Part 3, I don't think his name is even referred to Jason, never mind Jason Voorhees. Which, me saying that and looking up this fact, I still find very hard to believe. I'll have to go back and rewatch Part 3. Okay guys, hope you all enjoyed this review. Don't forget to check out my other Friday the 13th reviews. I'll leave them in the link down below. What did you think of Friday the 13th Part 5? Please leave your comments down below. I'll get back to you all, I promise. Thanks so much guys. You take care. And I'll see you all in the next video.